Hey, good Monday, everybody. If I seem a little bit subdued and sober, it's because I am. It was a really hard weekend here in Colorado. A patriot was, I believe, targeted and assassinated, executed by a left-wing radical who is being portrayed as a so-called private security guard for local media journalists for a station called 9 News. It's the local NBC affiliate here. A lot of bizarre things have transpired in the last 48 to 72 hours with regard to the identity of this so-called private security guard and an instigator who had been harassing patriots on Saturday afternoon, all afternoon, right up to the lead-in of the shooting of the victim, Lee Keltner, by the alleged shooter, the suspect, Matthew Doloff. And I have two guests coming up, and the first is an awesome conservative patriot who's running for Congress. I'm going to bring him in right now. He is Casper Stockham. Hey, Casper. Let's see. Can we hear you? Yeah, you're unmuted. There you go.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Everybody.
So we are streaming on my Facebook,
Yes,
Twitter, and YouTube. A lot of Colorado citizens tuning in, and every single one of them should know about your campaign. You're running in CD7 against Ed Perlmutter.
That's correct.
And what's really notable, what I want people to understand is that as frustrated as grassroots conservatives can be sometimes with the conservative, they're not conservative, the Republican establishment.
Yes.
You represent a new breed of populist conservatives. And I've seen you at, I believe, every single grassroots rally this year through this, hellish COVID season. Let's see, I saw you at the Medical Freedom rally with RFK Jr.
Exactly.
Right, when so many parents were rising up against this big pharma-funded campaign to remove religious objections to mandatory vaccines.
Yep.
I saw you at the Bandemere rally a little while ago, again, to stop the COVID chaos, right?
Right.
And of course, that infamous Bloody Sunday, Back the Blue rally, right? Where a stand down order led to so many of our friends and colleagues being physically assaulted. And of course, I know you were near the stage, right at the stage as well, when we were besieged by the BLM phalanx and then the Antifa thugs wielding their skateboards. And so I saw a video of you and my heart jumped this weekend at the Patriot Muster, which was called by our friend and just an amazing activist, Tig Tigan, the Benghazi hero. And I wanted to first line up some video of you and then get you to describe what happened here. Let's see if we can share this.
All right.
All right. Here we go.
Didn't your parents ever tell you that? Didn't your parents ever tell you that? Yes, no? Didn't they tell you that's not respectful?
So when I see the president marching down to City Hall, with respect, we call it Klansmen for sir. If I see the call it Klansmen for sir, no, I wouldn't. You know why? And so can we represent the ideology?
They're ready to get us the third and fourth amendments.
These people represent the same ideology I have, which is not the KKK. The KKK, by the way, your president just labeled them as a terrorist organization. You know that?
I forgot my Constitution. You got your copy of the Constitution on you?
Okay. But he named the KKK as a terrorist organization.
I didn't need it. That was my
Trump was a
Constitution.
documented Klan member.
Come on.
So Fred Trump wasn't a documented Klan member?
Man, you making up all kinds of stuff.
Fred Trump was arrested.
Fred Trump was.
Trump's father was arrested at
Okay, now, have you been arrested?
So the guy on the left-hand side of the screen, Casper,
Mm-hmm.
is the same instigator who, right before Lee was murdered,
Yes.
picked a fight with Lee. Talk more about the, I'm not going to say discussion, because a discussion is what two civil people of good faith have, but your encounter with this jerk.
Yes, yes. So I tried to engage him early on. You know, Michelle, I never run from a conversation with Antifa, BLM members. As long as they're not violent, I would try to have a conversation. And that's what I tried to do with this young man. I think we found out his name is Jacob, I believe. So he was there literally from the beginning. I mean, early on, he got in the area because the area was pretty much separated off by the police. So he had on a Black Guns Matter T-shirt, which is typically someone that is more conservative, more of a patriot. So he got in the area, and so did some media. Okay, the guy that was filming that shot, he was in there as well. And I was trying to engage him in conversation, but early on, he said, "Oh, okay, you know, so you're just a house nigger." And I said, I was like, "Wow, you know, that's just those kind of things don't shock me anymore because I expect for people like him to say that, but I still try to engage him in conversation." And if you notice, my demeanor was not one of anger. You know, I was trying to be, you know, still respectful of him, even though he was not respectful of me nor anyone else that was in that area. He was shouting at the patriots as they were walking in and out. He was saying horrible things about women who were walking in and out, talking about he wanted to rape them, and you know, just absolutely disgusting things. In fact, in part of the video, I asked him, I said, you know, did your parents teach you how to be this, you know, this rude and obnoxious and nasty? I mean, is this something that you were taught? You know, where did you learn this, you know, this kind of speaking? Because it is absolutely disgusting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I heard from some of our other mutual friends too that he had harassed a couple of our conservative female patriots, threatened to rape them.
Right. Right.
And then I don't know if you can see here on the screen, but I had done a thread over the weekend of this instigator. Now, what people need to understand, and you know, the story has gone viral on social media, but the national media purposely is whitewashing and suppressing the story, right? Because it doesn't fit their narratives.
Exactly.
But what people need to understand is this guy was wearing a Black Guns Matter T-shirt, which most people are familiar with. There's a public conservative Black figure, Madge Touré.
Yes.
You know, you have a lot of 2A friendly conservatives out there, and he sells these T-shirts. But this guy was wearing the T-shirt as deception. You know, there were a lot of people who actually came up to him, and there's video of it saying, "Hey, I love your T-shirt." And he was using it to be able to infiltrate you know, all of the throngs of crowds that were with you and Tig and so many others who were there. So, so this picture is of him before he walked over to the scene of the crime. He was arguing, picking a fight with another minority conservative here, right? And then here he is being photographed by the woman on the left here is a Denver Post photographer, Helen Richardson, who seemed to like act as this instigator's personal publicist. I mean, right? So here he is on the right with his bandana, and he was picking another fight with people who were leaving, you know, the event that he was at. And here he is again, you know, face to face, just like he was with you, right?
Exactly.
All up in your business. And you know, there was a much bigger police presence at this event than there was at our event that you and I were at Back of Blue, which is good. But you have to think that those guys were watching this guy the whole time, right?
You would think so, but it sure didn't feel that way because, you know, he was moving freely amongst us, you know, and just getting in our faces. at this particular thing here, I think you almost saw me on the side here. I was asking the Patriot with the red shirt to actually walk away and leave him because he was just toxic. And the guy right here with the yellow shirt, he was on my team. That's where he and I walked away. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Because you
Yeah.
had been at the fence when that guy was
Right.
going after you, and your
Right.
security was with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. I want to get to this picture. I know that most of the people who are watching have seen some of these.
Yeah.
But this is the actual moment captured by Helen Richardson.
Right.
So where were you exactly when the shots rang out?
So I was to the right of this picture, closer to the Coliseum or to the park
Right.
area on the sidewalk. And I was literally being interviewed by the Denver Gazette reporter when this was going down. And we both kind of turned around and said, what is going on up there? And then, I see the pepper spray go off. I didn't see the slap because there were a lot of people on the side of on the right side of the shooter.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't see the slap, but we heard the commotion going on for sure.
Yeah. There's been a lot of sort of amateur forensic analysis of the frame by frames of what actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I talked about this just before we came on. What's interesting is that the man here on the far right, who was the 9 News investigative reporter,
Mm-hmm.
we believe to be by inference and deduction, Zach Newman.
Okay.
9 News has been doing some weirdo reports all weekend. 9 News is the local NBC affiliate that allegedly hired through Pinkerton. We'll get to that more in a second. The shooter, who's been identified as Matthew Doloff.
Right.
And it's just very bizarre what the relationship is between these two, mostly because it's been revealed that this so-called security guard had no security license
at all. So now we should just call him the Antifa shooter because he doesn't have any security guard experience, no licensing whatsoever, and we're told he doesn't even have a concealed carry permit.
Okay, so, that I didn't know. Yeah,
that's what Peter Boyles was saying
this morning. Peter Boyles, for those of you who are not in Colorado, one of the premier legendary talk show hosts in town, and the role that 9 News is playing in not disclosing and not being transparent definitely deserves a lot more attention than it's getting, especially because 9 News has had a reputation, a well-earned reputation of being hostile to conservatives. Have you encountered that yourself?
Well, what they do with me is they ignore me. So when I see the news crews, I go up to them, I hand them my card, and I say, hey, I'm here. If you have questions, you want to ask me questions about why I'm here and so forth. And they just ignore me. I did a short Facebook video just earlier that Saturday, and I was showing the difference between the hateful side and the peaceful side. And the Channel 4 news reporter, I can't think of his name, but he came over to me because he recognized me. And he said, hey, Casper, how you doing? See, they all know me. They just won't talk to me on camera about anything.
Right. So that's one of their strategies is there's 2 types of media malpractice: sins of commission, where they're actively doing things that are bad.
Yes.
And sins of omission, where they skew reality and skew the news by ignoring what's actually happening.
Exactly.
And they especially do that. And I can commiserate with you because they seem to especially ignore minority conservatives.
Oh, yeah,
right?
For sure.
Because we definitely don't fit the narrative.
Right.
So that's a good segue to the fact that so many of these people are ignoring your campaign. So let people know. I'm going to put up the banner for your congressional campaign, which is at Casper for Colorado. Why are you running?
I'm running because our country's in danger, and if we don't fight back the swamp and the people like my opponent Ed Perlmutter, if we don't fight back against them, we're going to lose our country. So the fight still needs to continue. The battle needs to rage on, and I am fighting and will continue to fight. Whether I'm running for Congress or not, I'm still an American patriot, and I'm still going to stand up for what's right. And right now, we don't have many, if any, politicians standing up like the president is standing up right now. I mean, I'm wearing this woke hat, but this woke hat, let me turn to the side. It has MAGA on it.
Mhm.
You can get it from the president's website because he understands. He's been working with the Black Voices for Trump organization, and we're just working to get the proper message put into the Black community. So the president gets it. I wish more Republicans got it, because if they did, we could make some serious inroads and change the narrative.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to pull up a campaign ad that you have on Twitter that just came out. Yeah.
Today.
Okay, here we go.
How could I ever guess the first time, the last time we ever met? But I know the reason why you keep me silent, so no you for me. The hurt doesn't show, but the pain still grows. So strange as you and me.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. Well,
And
I
it just
hope. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it just came out today, so we're gonna be pushing that out over the next 3 weeks. I think it speaks volumes to what's going on. And I'm one of the few candidates that's actually pointing out the chaos, rioting, and looting and destruction that's going on around our nation. I wish more of our leaders in the Republican Party were doing the same thing.
I have to completely agree with you there. I've been really disgusted by some of the GOP establishment here in Colorado. And, it would be such an opportunity to draw a contrast between the anarcho-tyrannists on the left and the party that's supposed to stand for law and order. And
Exactly.
I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel that Cory Gardner has been missing in action, totally AWOL on this. He's supposed to be doing a debate tomorrow night that is hosted by none other than 9 News. Your thoughts?
Okay. Oh my God. Yeah. And Kyle Clark, I think, is going to be one of the moderators or something. I mean, give me a break. He is so partisan. He is such a partisan hack. Every other tweet on Twitter is just kind of laughing at you, laughing at me, laughing at the Patriots. No sympathy at all for the shooting, the death of Lee, nothing like that. So I would, if I was Cory, I would protest or what do you call it when you don't go? I just said, I'm not going.
Boycott. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Boycott. He should absolutely withdraw. Here's a comment from our comment section. We've got viewers on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Right on Casper, get him, somebody says. Trinidad Baca. And I believe that Peter Boyles this morning called on Cory Gardner to boycott the debate, withdraw from the debate. Absolutely.
Yes. And so have I.
Yeah. Yes. Yay. And you know what? Here's the thing is that the national media is covering for this local NBC affiliate. You've got all of these Jim Acosta wannabes, right? Kyle Clark. There's another one, Jeremy Jojola, who was apparently at the rally on Saturday with Zach Newman and Matthew Doloff, and they've just completely clammed up. I messaged Zach Newman over the weekend to get more information about the nature of the relationship. And from the people who they have a phrase, right? They have a slogan, 9 News wants to know, right? Colorado Patriots want to know.
We want to know. Exactly. We want to know the who, what, where, when, and why. Exactly.
Yeah. It is crazy. Locally where I live in Colorado Springs, there's been a spillover of Antifa and BLM. Just 15 minutes from where I live, there was a riot in the Pulpit Rock neighborhood at the house of a police officer who had been targeted by BLM.
Yeah.
And they let it happen. Our streets have been taken over by BLM with very little recourse.
Yeah.
One of the things, and I don't know if you've noticed this or heard this from your people too, Casper, is that there are a lot of dots to be connected among all of these different outbreaks of violence. In other words, the people that are doing it in Colorado Springs also are the same ones that showed up at Back the Blue.
I heard
And
that.
some of the same characters were there this weekend as well. And there's no legal consequences. I mean, there's only criminal charges brought against patriots for defending themselves. How do you feel about the Second Amendment here in Colorado? It used to be one of the strongest pro-gun states in the country.
I know. Our Second Amendment rights are definitely at jeopardy. And imagine had this shooting been the other way around, there'd be nonstop 24-hour coverage of it. There would be protests and rioting in the streets right now. Now, we have been in the streets, but not rioting and protesting. We've been trying to keep this story alive because they're trying to bury it. But had it been the other way around, it would be on the TV set nonstop.
Yeah. The double standards are just unconscionable. Well, we are so happy that you're alive and well and safe and that your campaign is thriving. Any last thoughts?
My last thought is, if you're listening or watching, don't sit on the sidelines. This is way too important. There is something you can do right now to help my campaign. It's not just about money, though. It's about getting off your couch, out of that chair, whatever it is that you're sitting in or whatever, and you've got to volunteer for my campaign or other campaigns. We have information we still need to get out. We still had 3 weeks left, and we're not going to stop until the very last. After the polls close, we probably still be pushing it because we have to make sure that we win this time. Our state depends on it. Our country depends on it. Our president, making sure that our president is reelected depends on it. So I can be a strong voice for him in Congress, but I got to get there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Casper. Good luck with everything, and we'll keep up with you in your campaign. Thank you for fighting back. Thank you for speaking up. Thank you for being on the streets with the people. Appreciate you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate you.
Take care. All right, that was Casper Stockham. So amazing. Make sure you check him out at Casper for Colorado. And by the way, you can also follow him on Twitter at Casper for Colorado. So we've got another guest coming up, a young man who I did not know before, who's been doing some really great on-the-ground reporting. His name is Joey Camp, and I just started following him this weekend. We were both covering everything that's been happening with the riots here in Colorado, and apparently he's been traveling all over the country doing this very, very important work of being an actual journalist and showing what's really happening rather than whitewashing it. So just waiting for him to come on, and I'll be taking your questions, and also want to do a little bit more review of what happened this weekend. For those of you who may not have seen, and I highly doubt that that there are any of you in this audience who haven't seen what's happened, but we'll go over that. I wanted to show Rob O'Donnell, my friend. Hey, Rob, thanks for joining in. He's joining us on the Facebook stream. He's former NYPD. He co-hosted the Back the Blue rally at the White House during the Obama years when Obama refused to light the White House blue in honor of the cops who'd been massacred by vigilantes from BLM in Dallas and New Orleans, I believe, during the Obama years. And he says the Denver police need an intelligence and link analysis unit to track and build cases. And that is so right. And here's a little illustration of it. Many of you who saw the video of me being attacked on stage at Back the Blue in Denver at the Civic Center Plaza in July saw, I think it was Andy No who first noticed that I had inadvertently captured a moment where one of these black clad Antifa types had pulled out an asp, a collapsible baton, just inches from me, and actually got into a physical scrum with one of my private security guards who was there along with me, along with the House Republican Minority Leader, Pat Neville, up on stage. And it turned out that this same woman was one of the rioters in this neighborhood 15 minutes away from where I live in Pulpit Rock, just, I believe, 5 or 6 weeks ago, menacing neighbors of the police officer and brandishing an AR-15, inciting a riot. She was charged recently. There's federal investigators who are involved in that. And so, Rob, I have to believe and pray, although I always have to hold my breath, that in fact this kind of intelligence and link analysis is being gathered and those dots are being connected. Of course, those dots expand outside of Colorado, and there have been plenty of indications that you've got people who have been bussed across the country from Seattle, from Portland. I know it happened in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and other places. We've got a lot of independent journalists working for conservative organizations on the ground who've captured some of these characters. And what's alarming to me is the thought that we have JTTF's, Federal Joint Anti-Terrorism Task forces that are paying more attention to left-wingers that are being cast as conservatives, like the ragtag bunch of losers involved in that alleged plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan. So some weird shizzle going on there. And then, of course, over the weekend, CNN crowing over the fact that the Justice Department and the FBI have deemed white supremacist racism as the biggest threat in the country, when every single major city in this country has gone up in flames at the hands of Antifa and BLM domestic terrorists. It's quite puzzling. Let's see. I'm still waiting for Joey Camp to come on, so I'll go through a few more of your comments, and I'm going to go over more of the basics and facts about what happened in Denver as we await Joey. If any of you have questions, comments, new information about what happened, let me know. And I know, of course, things were bonkers and insane and inflammatory again in Portland last night. Today, of course, is another trigger for many of these left-wing agitators, since it's happy Columbus Day to everyone. So all of the Italians and Meds out there, happy Columbus Day. Janet Monagle says, miss you on Fox. Hey, guess what? Everybody knows my hashtag now. Switch to Newsmax. Let's see. Still waiting for Joey. I'm going to message him for a second here. Could be some technical issues there. And my latest mega thread on the Denver shooting situation specifically pertains to the experience that I've had hiring private security myself, as both a journalist for the last 30 years and as a public speaker. And it strains credulity to believe 9 News' claim that they hired Matthew Doloff through Pinkerton, when Pinkerton now denies that he was never, ever, ever an employee there, refuses to say on the record what company he did come from and what the nature of the relationship is between, actual relationship is between 9 News and Matthew Doloff. For those of you who are catching up to the story, of course, every amateur sleuth on the internet over the weekend was able to dig up this Matthew Doloff's radical left-wing Antifa sympathetic social media footprint, tweets disparaging Trump supporters all as racists, a tattoo, which is allegedly a tattoo that, signals sympathy for Antifa. Oops, it looks like we've got Joey Camp about to come on here. Let's see if we can add him to the stream. Hey, Joey
Hey,
Camp. Yay, you made it.
yeah, sorry, technical issues.
No worries. And this is a great platform. This StreamYard. It's pretty user friendly. You look great. And I was just telling the viewers here. This is streaming on my Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter channels. That I had not been familiar with your work, even though we've been covering the same types of things for a while. And you've been doing such amazing reporting. How long have you been doing your YouTube channel covering these protests?
So generally I went out on the first day of the Denver riots on May 28th. Actually, it was the day of my birthday. Um, Before that, I did several protest events and took pictures just as a photographer. But the day of the riots really turned my attention toward live streaming, getting video footage, and kind of in-depth.
Oops, looks like you froze a little bit there.
Okay, so sorry about that.
No worries.
So generally on the day of the first day of the riots, I got the itch to get back out there and dying. It's to uncover the events in a more detailed manner. So it wasn't enough for me to just scratch the surface with photos and videos. I wanted to know more about the operations behind the scenes.
Yeah. And one of the things that you've been doing that I think is so valuable is covering a lot of the local players in Denver. Not only these agitators themselves, but many of the local politicians who've been running cover for them or advocating on their behalf. Do you want to maybe try and go somewhere where the connection might be a little bit better? Yeah, I think he's going to try and do that. And so you can follow Joey Camp on Twitter at Joey Camp 2020. I'm going to bring up his timeline and show you some of the reporting that he's been doing because he's tracking the statements of many of these local Democrats, including some that I've had unfortunate encounters with. Here, let's see this. Hey, how you doing?
I'm sorry, I'm back. I moved. So I think where I left off. So on May 28th, I went in and I covered the live streamed the first day of the riots here in Denver. I was the only one down there live streaming, but what happened, I noticed a couple days into the riots and the protesting, is people started attacking me simply because I was live streaming. And so I got very frustrated because I was getting attacked physically and online. So I decided that I would start going and exposing behind the scenes and who these individuals were.
Right. And I think this is worth noting because you got attacked simply because you had turned your camera on and showed unfiltered and uncensored what was happening. But we know that one of the MOs of Antifa is if they have so-called journalists who are not with the program, you will get assaulted, you'll get your equipment robbed, the umbrellas will immediately come up to block what you're doing, right? Has that been your experience as well? I mean, right?
Yeah, so it was a slow escalation until recently. About 3 weeks ago, or 2 weeks ago, I was down at one of the protests where they were at the Denver Police Department. On that day, I actually had hired security myself. I had 3 personal security with me, and then a 3-man team who were ready to evacuate us if needed. All of them were armed. As I was recording from about, I would say 150 feet away, a man started running after me and my security team with a machete.
Oh my God.
One of my security pulled his sidearm. The other 2 pulled me and ran me out of there. The security that pulled his sidearm was arrested or was detained. He was licensed properly. All of his paperwork was in order. They shortly released him about 10 minutes later. Um, it didn't get too much attention. Denver Wright did some left spin on it, but every time I go into these events, my life is literally in danger. Um, even living, uh, even now, like my live stream, I'm very cautious as to what's behind me, and what identifications could be used, because I get hundreds of death threats a day.
Yeah, right. And I'm sure. And the doxing, the harassment, all of it. And I just want to clarify, of course, that we're specifically talking about when you are covering the BLM, Antifa riots, the riots that are coming from the left. I mean, if you go to your average, Trump rally or the Back the Blue rally that we tried to hold in July, these are people that you're not going to be intimidated by. It's people with families. It is old people in walkers and canes and, military veterans,
Right.
right?
And that's exactly my experience. So I was at the Back to Blue event back in July, and what I noticed was you have the individuals on the radical left who are all in menacing, very dark, disturbing and intimidating clothing, very intimidating in their persona and their personalities. And then on the Trump supporting side and on the back to blue side, you have very vibrant colors, very cheerful, very much a different ambience between the two parties. Nobody on the Trump side was ever disrespectful or mean to me. None of them threatened to kill me, even though uh, everybody's like, "Oh, these Trump guys are so bad." Honestly, I was flabbergasted at not being treated horribly because of how I was treated when I cover an event that's done on the left.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And I really do think it's worth underscoring this point. You know why? Because now you have 9 News, and they say, "Oh, well, we've had to contract with Pinkerton to protect our journalists," but they will not go the extra step and make it explicit that the reason why they have to hire security is because their journalists, some of them, had the same experience you did, that they had been harassed, that they had been physically accosted, that they had been threatened, not by Trump supporters and so-called right-wing terrorists, but by Antifa and BLM. And the problem with 9 News is that they've spent the whole year trying to demonize people who have my same ideological and political leanings, while they have to protect themselves from those left wingers. And so this is the weirdo thing. And I want to get into this a little bit. And I know you can't talk too much in detail, but I just want to show one of the videos that you shot, and this went viral over the weekend. This is somebody who was shouting triumphantly right after the shooting, and you were heading towards it, coming from the opposite, and most of the people were filing out of Civic Center Plaza, and you were on the other end. Let me just show it, okay? I'm just gonna pull up the share screen. This is from your YouTube channel, which is, people can find it at Joseph A. Camp. Is that correct?
Yeah, so all of my social media is either Camp Joseph A or Joey Camp 2020.
Okay, here we go. I'm just going to play a couple seconds of it.
Right in the fucking door! Fuck yeah!
Okay, in case people didn't hear that, and pardon my language, but I just have to repeat it. And we're on social media. If there are kids around, you might want to get them out of the room, or just put the volume down. But somebody was triumphantly shouting, "F yeah, fuck yeah," right in the dome. In other words, the shot to the head, gloating over the the targeted shooting at point blank range of the victim, Lee Keltner. And so you had you covered both events, both the Civic Center Plaza and then afterwards as they were filing out? Can you say that much?
Yeah.
Okay.
So actually, this day, I had 4 people who were working in conjunction with me as well. So we have a lot of content from different perspectives.
Mhm.
Much of our content has not been released. We're reviewing it and being cautious as to how much we can really share.
Yes.
We don't want to. One, we don't want to hurt anybody's emotions with the family, with them, as well as law enforcement. We don't want to step or impede on their investigation. All of our content has been offered over to law enforcement. There's a substantial amount, something like 200 gigs, and so we have copied, and we will be dropping it off with law enforcement later this week. Our contact with the DPD has said that they have, you know, a substantial amount as well, based on the fact that every officer had body cams rolling, all of the Halo cams, the surveillance footages from the art museum and the library as well. So there's a lot that they have. So there's no rush for me getting them the content yet, unless I find something more that's specific to this incident.
Right. And just to explain to people what Halo camps are, can you do that?
Yeah, so Denver initiated a program a while back where they installed overhead cameras that monitor foot traffic, vehicle traffic, and various areas of the city. There's also sensors on them that can sense when a gunshot has gone off and kind of point to police and the law enforcement to the location of the gunshot. These cameras are hidden. Nobody really knows the exact number that there are. But prior to this event, my source at DPD said that they had definitely increased the number of Halo cams in the vicinity of where this event was going to be happening, in anticipation for any investigation that came later.
Right, right. I'm bringing up some comments as they come, and if you want to weigh in, please do. If you don't, just let me know. But Rights Center asks, where are Helen Richardson's missing photos? So the context for this is that Helen Richardson is the notable Denver Post photographer wearing the bright orange vest that happened to be right in the middle of every confrontation that the Black Guns Matter t-shirt wearing instigator was involved in, throughout the whole entire event. He had harassed Casper Stockham, my guest who I had on just before you came on, Joey, as he was standing, lurking outside of the gates at the Civic Center Plaza. And then as he accompanied the columns of people who were filing out, he got into multiple different verbal altercations with people, including, according to a good friend of mine who was there, threatening to rape a couple of the female conservative patriots who had come to the Patriot muster, and then all the way up until the point that he had provoked a verbal and almost physical confrontation with the victim, Lee Keltner. So Helen Richardson was right there, shooting a burst of photographs as the shooting took place, and people have noticed from some of the EXIF data that they believe that some of the photos might be missing. You have any thoughts on that?
As a photographer, in an event such as an altercation like that, I would be pushing the button as rapidly as I can. There should not be more than a couple of millisecond delay between the images. I don't know if she was doing it that fast, but being that she's got a lot fancier equipment than I do,
yeah,
she probably was. The other thought I had on this, and I have to go back and review some more of the footage. I think I sent you a YouTube link, or at least linked it to you. But she appears to be talking later, as my GoPro image or GoPro video shows, and I'm trying to put her voice with some of the comments, something along the lines of, "I'm trying to see what happened to my guy."
Yeah.
So I'm not sure who said that, but definitely doing some listening on that. I know Helen from other events that I've photographed. She's definitely very left in her leanings. Um, I'm not friendly with her by any means. Uh, but I would think that the Denver Post, News 7, News 9, a lot of these channels are very much left wing and definitely would defend if she got caught withholding the images.
Right.
But on the other side of this, it's to be fair, she doesn't have to release those images, or she could be under order not to, um,
Yeah.
because there are a substantial amount of people involved in this from the federal level down. So.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Although, they did take advantage of licensing the photos to Getty and Associated Press, and that it. I always like when I see something, I always question, why am I allowed to see this? Right? Why this and not that? So I brought up your Twitter account because you have so much good stuff here. It's just, I mean, even keeping up with you is a task in itself. And you just noted recently, just less than half an hour ago, that there was a comment from Michael Hancock, the mayor of Denver. Tell me about what he said and what your comment on that was.
So essentially, Mayor Hancock is kind of hedging his position here, in my opinion. The no comment is or the comment is a no comment, if you ask me. Right now, if anybody follows the Denver protesting scene, they know that there's several influential radical left individuals. Tay Anderson, I'll call him out by name. Candy Sitabaka, Leslie Herod, Elizabeth Epps. These individuals are prominent in the community, but they're also very much in opposite to Mayor Hancock, and there's a very public uh, dispute between the two, or between both sides here, Mayor Hancock and the others on the radical left. My opinion here is that Mayor Hancock is hedging his position, waiting to get a little more information. And then he's going to be behind the scenes with that information to defend himself and his policy positions um, against individuals like Tay Anderson, Candy Sitabaka, Leslie Herod, and others. So he's got to defend his policy positions, and I think that that's what he's doing here. Is so he wouldn't necessarily just say, my thoughts are with the victim, unless there was probably a little more to it. I don't think he would have even commented
Yeah.
if he didn't know a little more than what the no comment series of tweets are.
Right, right. And some of my viewers on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter will be familiar with Tay Anderson specifically. I held a Stand with ICE rally about a year ago, two of them in the Denver area, Aurora, at the ICE facility that had been targeted by some of these mobsters last summer. And he came, brought his little megaphone, and spent the whole time trying to drown us out. At the time, he was running for school board. Now he has won that seat. And given a lot of the vile public comments that he's made, it's just astonishing to me that he is in a position where he's a leader among the public schools there, and with the purview of being a leader among children, especially. It's really something else. And then several of these other ones that you've mentioned, I want to specifically talk about this Leslie Herod, because she was in the middle of getting the Denver Post to change a description of the shooter that turned out to be true. Can you weigh in on that?
Absolutely. So I know Leslie. I've known Leslie for a year and a half or 2 years. I actually worked on some policies where that she was doing that I was favorable for. The dynamic with Leslie and I changed when she refused to condone the violence that Tay Anderson and others are engaged in dog whistling. So with that in mind, things escalated with Tay Anderson and I, and that the online flame war turned into Tay Anderson outright calling for my assault and for me to be victimized. Um, I saw the comment from Leslie, and as a staunch believer in the First Amendment, and I don't care if you talk about me negatively or if you talk about me positively, I want you to be able to express your opinions. Um, and I want you to do so legally within the law, obviously, peacefully. Leslie basically used her government position to censor the media and used her influence to change the narrative and to change the history, literally how it's written in a mass amount of viewerships. So that appalls me. That makes me so disgusted that a public servant who is elected to public office would even dare go into a media outlet with the intent of changing what they write. There should be no influence whatsoever, whether you like the statement, whether you like the article or not. Public figures, public people, or public office holders should not have the right or the intent or even try to change what the media says. I was definitely appalled by that, and that kind of turns me a lot further away from Leslie than I would have been 72 hours ago.
Yeah, right. And there's a clear double standard here and a hypocrisy, because what you had was the Denver police immediately coming out before they had really done any type of investigation of the alleged shooter, saying, claiming that he had no left-wing Antifa affiliation, right? And nobody was complaining about jumping to conclusions on that, right? Which actually turned out to be true. And then you have Leslie Harriet basically dictating to the Denver Post what they're allowed to say or not say, even though it ended up being true. And so there's a strange dynamic and chemistry going on there too. And what I have thought, Joey, is that there's this that often in many metropolitan cities, there's a symbiotic relationship between the Denver police brass and many of these TV stations and elitist corporate media, right? They feed off each other. Hey, I'll give you, I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine, right? And so, who has an incentive to cover up the ideological leanings of the shooter? Well, 9 News does, right? And so, at the same time that the Denver police are tweeting something that gives cover to 9 News, they are then ganging up on the Denver Post, right? It's just, the whole thing stinks to me to high heaven, and there's been a huge backlash to 9 News. Are you hearing the same thing?
Oh yes, I for entertainment, I go over to their Twitter page and click on any tweet, whether it's the weather or NASCAR, and I just read the comments.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely entertaining. I know that Spear Boulevard right now in downtown Denver has been closed off. The police are where 9 News headquarters are. I'm actually was after this interview, I'm thinking about going down there. We also have some idea that there's parked vehicles at Jojola's place and Kyle Clark's house. With security there. My contact has asked if there has been any indication anywhere that there's going to be backlash against 9 News.
Mm-hmm.
They are definitely feeling some pressure on this one. I was happy to break the news that that this individual murderer, I won't even give his name time, but this murderer was not licensed. I was able to get that information about 3 or 4 hours prior to it breaking with mainstream media.
Yes.
And I did send a copy to all of the local media except for 9 News. I let them. So I was working in conjunction. I have a small team, about 6 individuals who work with me very closely. We've been working on this particular Denver dynamic since May 28th, and we've just been digging into different individuals who are involved, different aspects of it. Whenever something happens, we go back and review our prior footage, see who's involved. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the PSL indictment that just came down from those individuals.
Yeah.
If you read those indictments, almost every page, all of the picture credits are from myself. I took the live stream, the GoPro footage, and the still photos that of that event that day. I wasn't intending to provide those to law enforcement, but at the end of my GoPro footage, which I haven't set to live yet, I had one of these Antifa goons surround me and point a gun at me. I ran away. And I happened to work literally across the street from that police station. Well, I don't work at that location, but I had a key to that location because it was one of our locations. So I was able to get into one of my work locations and hide until somebody could come in and get me out of there unnoticed. That's when I was like, the gloves are off. I'm going to identify everybody. I'm going to get as much content to the proper authorities. And by the end of this year, I'm going to see as many people arrested for their crimes as I can possibly facilitate.
It's a really brave thing that you are doing, and naming the names and exposing these people at considerable risk to your life is, to me, it's the definition of what citizen journalism is all about. So I want to go back to your screen because so many people have been asking, who is the man who wore that deceptive black Guns Matter shirt? And I say deceptive because I'm explaining to my audience here, a lot of them who are conservative just assumed that this guy was one of them initially if they saw him, because that shirt is marketed by a black conservative figure named Madge Toure. And he actually tweeted about this weekend, and I don't know him personally, but I definitely want to get the correct information to this guy, because he also assumed that this man was, one of his people. And as we mentioned, and I reviewed this with Casper as well, this guy was everywhere. Let me just pull up a couple of these just to refresh everybody's memory. And then I'll go back to your stream. Here we go. He had confronted Casper Stockham. He had confronted several women, female conservative patriots who were leaving the venue, and threatened to rape them. He went after a man and a woman right before he crossed the street, and was starting to get involved with Lee Keltner. Here it is. No, not that. Give me a second. Kind of multitasking here.
Yeah, so an interesting side note while you're doing that, I was at the Bernie Sanders rally.
That he was at, yeah.
When this fight happened, I was actually on stage with Bernie Sanders when this fight was happening. I had a team member who is reviewing his footage right now because he was in the cutaway just above. In fact, in the footage, you can see the legs of one of my team members. And so I believe he got some footage of this incident at the Bernie Sanders rally. So we're looking for that right now as well.
Oh, wow. So you have that. That's an incredible.
Not sure if we have it yet.
Okay, you're looking.
But we're looking to see because he was right there. So
yeah. So here's just a illustrative picture of the guy on the left with his distinctive blue bandana. He's wearing the Black Guns Matter T-shirt, and then this is Helen Richardson, who trailed him the whole time, making sure they even had kind of eye contact with each other, almost like they were acknowledging each other, like, "Hey, you got that? Yeah, I got that." You know what I mean? At least that's the dynamic I've sensed from it, and I've been enough of these rallies to see that kind of dynamic. But let's go to your
to put another coincidence on this, Helen was definitely at the Bernie rally as well. And
wow.
And on the cutaway, I remember talking to her at the cutaway before I went to the stage.
Gotcha. So you have tweeted this, an identification of this man as Jacob LeBron Kelly. How'd you find that out, and what do we know about him now?
Okay, so everybody who's booked into the Denver County Sheriff's, we know. Well, okay, we know he was arrested. This individual, the day of October 10th. So I went over to our murderer, and I found his booking number. Um, I went to the search page for the inmate lookup on the Denver Sheriff's page, and I started searching for booking numbers, going backwards and forward from our murderer all the way back to October 9th because they go in chronological order. So from October 9th, the very first person on October 10th, all the way to the very last person on October 10th. I checked all of the charges, all of the case informations, all of the individuals that were arrested or had a booking number before or after our murderer on the 10th had nothing to do. The charges were clearly didn't have anything to do with these events. Petty larceny, warrants from Jefferson County, vehicle stuff. There was no related offenses except for this individual as well as our murderer. And their booking numbers were very close to each other. I think they were 3 off or 4 off, which makes sense if they went in at about the same time. I then took and I started comparing his details with some of the other court records and stuff like that. They have a similar court appearance dates, that sort of thing. And then I sent his name over to my attorney. I'm waiting on the results, but I should have his affidavit of arrest and other details as well later today.
Okay, great. I'm bringing up right now because I noticed this, and I'm sure you did at the same time, that another 9 News employee, Mark Salinger, happened to be off of the way of the crime scene, the actual crime scene, when this man that you've identified as Jacob Kelly was apprehended by the police.
Yep.
Here it is.
Yep.
That's him, right?
So my question would be is who is Selinger's bodyguard? Or security or whatever you want to call them. I'm sure that whoever was detained and then released was with the security that murdered Lee. But if 9 News was providing security for each of their reporters, where is Salinger's security? Where is his bodyguard in this whole thing? And I'm looking back through some of the footage to see if I could spot Salinger and see who's around him, and see if this Black Lives or Black Guns Matters Jacob is anywhere near Mark at any point as well. So my theory is close to yours. He's either working with Helen Robinson from Denver Post, or he's working with Salinger as the so-called security. We know that our killer isn't licensed security. We know that these guys are probably just picking up, I want to call them thugs off the street, pretty much.
Right.
So maybe this guy is, and it's a working theory that that could be wrong, but maybe this guy is security for Salinger as well.
That's interesting. That's interesting. I want to bring up, I don't have the Bernie Sanders picture right now, but I do have another shot of the Black Guns Matter Jacob guy. Here, let me bring that up right now. Let's see. Where is it? Because he's quite active. Would it be fair to call him a professional instigator?
Oh yes.
Right?
I know that if I were looking for content I would, and I, couldn't get it on my own. You can manufacture it by providing a guy like this who has no problems instigating.
Yeah, here he is. This is Colorado Patriot, just reminding people of his presence. That's him, right? Here he has the F the police. He's not, he's not undergoing any type of deception to try and infiltrate, Patriot things. He looks a little heavier here, I think. Anyway, this is Aurora PD headquarters. Had you shot any footage of any of those
Yes.
riots?
So actually, at the APD headquarters, I have live streams in as well, and GoPro footage. I have people like they're running through all of the footage right now. There's so many different angles that we're trying to figure. But I was just messaging over with this individual who you have on this, who tweeted this on the screen there, to get a little more details as to if what day this was, because there were several demonstrations at the APD headquarters. And so I'm working with him to try to get to narrow it down to a specific day so that we can figure out which of our footage to search for this individual.
Right. There's one other character I wanted to ask you about. When I was at a rally at the Bandimere Speedway just a couple of weeks ago, I got to meet some of the other attendees at Back the Blue who had been physically harmed. And there is actually one of these is supposed to be going to trial. It's that famous picture of Karen Sodero throttling a conservative woman who I met at Bandimere. And I'm sure you're following that case because you've got an amazing amount of information. And it turned out that this woman who had throttled the conservative at Back the Blue was also at the counter, I don't want to call it a counter protest because it was really a counter riot this weekend. Karen Sodero, tell us more about her.
Aaron, so first, that famous photograph that you have was actually stolen by me, or from me, by whoever taking credit for it. If you notice the video clip that's in that thread of the fight,
yeah,
that's my video clip. I was the only one that caught that footage, and you'll notice that if you compare the still image to the location of the video, you'll see that it's the exact location. It's whoever took that from me. I'm a little disappointed in them, but whatever.
Holy cow! Well, this is what happens to citizen journalists. I mean, and isn't it a strange paradox? Because on the one hand, well, it gets out there, but it's thanks to thievery, right?
Yeah. So,
I didn't know that.
But back to your question. So, Karen Sodero didn't really come on my radar until she was arrested. I just wanted to if you go through my Twitter feed, you'll notice that I start threads on every individual that I have that I'm researching. Right. So I'm not just constantly posting a tweet on top of a tweet. There's actually a series of threads that that outline each of these individuals. And so I posted about her. Somebody sent me a little bit more information. I noticed that this individual stole my picture. So I started getting a lot of footage and content and information going through my stuff as well. So I started posting a little bit about her. I think I had 3 or 4 tweets on that thread when I went down there with one of my security, just one security, during a daytime event that they were doing. Don't even know what the event was. And then Karen came up and approached me with the umbrella, started calling me all kinds of vile names, purposely provocative and misleading, or not misleading, but like completely false stuff. So I got really frustrated. I really just wanted to smack her, but I'm a little bit more of a human than that.
Yeah.
So we walked away, and I was reviewing the footage, and I noticed it's the exact same person. So I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to continue this thread on her. And so as I get more information or arrest her, she pops up at another protest. And I just keep adding to it. And, she'll, like everybody else who has a thread there, they will just keep getting their information right there through that thread, so that the public can be aware. She shined a laser pointer in my eye. I have an eye doctor actually appointment this week because these glasses are not even good now.
Mhm.
One of my eyes because of Miss Sadara. Um,
And she's done the same thing to police officers too. Is that right?
yeah. So if you look through some of those postings, and if you just Google her name, over 40 arrests, 50 arrests, just a tremendous amount of criminal activity, so to speak. And she's back out. She's back out.
Yeah, it's
It's like,
astonishing. It's like a revolving door. I
yeah,
mean, you dug up this arrest from 8 years ago, March 2012. You circled it here. She was one of the Occupy Denver protesters arrested for robbery. Here's another one where she'd made 48 false 911 calls. The current case involving here with the throttling of Lori Woods at the Back the Blue rally. There's supposed to be another hearing, I think the second week of November, but they keep delaying it.
and then you'll see these video clips from recently over here at the Union Station. There she is in yellow.
Yes, I'm going to pull this up just a little bit.
Ayana Stanley Jones. I want you to remember that name. I'm going to say it again. Ayana Stanley Jones. She was 7 years old.
And I mean, clearly these police officers know who she is, right?
You would think so. I mean, after 40 arrests, 50 arrests, yeah. So if you look at the one with the umbrella there,
Yes.
so that was when she was attacking me. That's my footage. She's right there behind the umbrella. She has a laser pointer in her hand, and that's on several occasions was shined it in my eye. Trying to, just censor the media and just censor independent journalists. I don't make any money off of this. I don't ask for money on PayPal. I go out there at tremendous risk and expense. I have to. That day, I only had one security. They're required, like asking that I increase my security for obvious reasons. Now I got to go out and expend more expenses. I am not down there to try to expose their lawful activity. I am not down there to say, here's a person committing crime. I'm down there to cover the event of whatever it is that's happening in public. If you're engaged in criminal activity and you don't want that criminal activity to be filmed or anything, then don't engage in public.
Right.
Like it's a tremendous amount of logicless individuals. So that was her that day where she was attacking me. That really brought my attention to her.
I want to make people are asking where your YouTube channel is, and I'm recommending that they follow you on Twitter right here at Joey Camp 2020, and they'll be able to access all of your work through there. I'm also going to put the link, direct link to your YouTube channel in the comments section so everybody can find it on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter/Periscope. It's astonishing to me that you're doing this out of pure journalistic imperative and then getting punished when you actually show objectivity as opposed to putting your thumbs on the scales and creating narratives rather than just showing the truth. And I wanted to get your thoughts on this because I tweeted about it with regard to Helen Richardson. This is clearly someone who looked very, very comfortable on the Antifa BLM side of what happened on Saturday. And you don't operate that way unless there's some sort of tacit or explicit assurance that you're not going to be harmed. Right? And that's really important. A good friend of mine is Andy No, who has been covering all of the same type of stuff in the Pacific Northwest. He's under constant threat, death threats, doxing, assassination threats, the whole thing. The gentlest guy you could ever meet. And he's been turned into some sort of monster by these people who lie about him all the time. It's bad enough that that the mob does that to him. But, a lot of the mainstream journalists who see him as a threat repeat those lies too. And I'm sure that the local media feels the same way about you. I mean, even just an hour's worth of your Twitter feed provides more actual information than all of 9 News, like every single day. Sorry, I mean, it's just true.
Yeah, so Denver Right published their article about my security being arrested about 2 weeks ago. Kevin Beatty of the Denver Right is, the mouthpiece for Tay Anderson. And they'll publish whatever the narrative is. They'll publish whatever Tay Anderson wants. It was very clear that he was getting and being fed information from Ted or from Tay Anderson to try to use against me in this article. His article failed because there was nothing that he could really show of that I did anything wrong. I mean, he helped my case and my position tremendously in an attempt to try to bash me. But it's a risk, and it's a hit to reputational hit to and damage to who I am and my character. I know that I've done wrong in my life, but I don't know that I would put my integrity up for sale like the local media is here. And it's becoming very clear, and I'm a very good researcher, and I get very good quality content when I'm on the scene. And I'm not hiding it. I'm not trying to cover up for anybody. If the police did something wrong, they're getting out there as well. If it's my bodyguard that did something wrong, he's getting exposed too. Yeah. There is no prejudice in how I present my information.
Yes. Here, I just brought up the picture that you took of Sodero pointing a weaponized laser pointer at an individual. She did the same thing to you. I've commented, because it happened to us at the Back the Blue, that you have an initial sort of front guard or phalanx of women. That's the wall of moms in Portland and Seattle. And they did the same thing at Back the Blue, where there was like a bunch of women, Black Lives Matter women, who came up and they sprayed silly string in our faces. And then immediately behind them were the guy who had the skateboard that was used to beat the organizer of Back the Blue, and then megaphones and, hard signs. Somebody was carrying like a curtain rod, like a metal curtain rod, and they're allowed to wield those kinds of things openly. And then you contrast that with Lee Keltner, who had a can of bear mace, and he's being treated as if it was his fault, blaming the victim. Any thoughts on that dichotomy?
Yeah. So again, first, if you go back through my Twitter, quite a ways back now, but you'll see that I published way back, just before this whole weekend stuff happened. Like literally the post before I started posting about this weekend, I actually identified the guy with the skateboard. So
You did.
Yeah, so if you go way back to the very, very beginning of Friday,
Okay.
so I know I posted a lot this weekend.
Yeah. I'm
Sorry
gonna find it.
about
Keep talking.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, no.
Keep going.
You keep talking, and I'll keep looking. But
okay, cool. So, they are, they're weaponizing objects that are not traditionally weapons. And right about, keep going, right up. Go back up a little, up. Should be right around here. A little bit more up. Up. Should be right around this date. Go up a little more. Up a little more. Okay, sorry, I must have. I'm sorry, it must be threading. So, but it's Friday. Just in the afternoon on Friday. So they're weaponizing inanimate objects that are not traditional weapons.
Yes.
And by doing that, they can kind of get away with criminal activity that is not traditionally recognized.
Correct.
So that right there, that whole thread right there is the skateboard guy.
This guy, Jace.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And so one of the victims sent me the if you notice there, one of the victims sent me the picture that he took, which clearly identifies the tattoos on his
Yes, here's the
on the
skateboard in his backpack. That's
yes.
right. Right.
So Jace Carter here. I spelled his name wrong. I do that a lot. I have
Sure.
to, but Jace here attacked you guys with the skateboard. He's got distinctive tattoos on his hand there that say something like the F word or something. I found his girlfriend or boyfriend, I'm not really sure. Um, and then found some images that connect the tattoo to his social media there.
Right. There's the girlfriend. There's the or whatever tattoos.
And then
Um,
there's the
yes.
and then I also connected him to the Aurora police protest as well. We're still looking to see if there's any good footage of them. I believe he might have been one of the individuals who pointed the guns at me during the Aurora police incident, but I'm unsure at this time.
Yeah. So this is relevant about the sort of everyday household objects that Antifa BLM types use, whether it's umbrellas or skateboards or megaphones or soup cans. And President Trump was roundly mocked a couple of weeks ago, whatever you think of him, for observing that at some of these riots that soup cans, tuna cans were being hurled at police officers. And I heard from a witness on Saturday that, in fact, the soup cans that were supposedly collected at the supposed counter protest on Saturday were, in fact, hurled at officers. Did you observe that?
So I did not observe that myself, but during our my whole team that was down there, we were in a group chat and we were in constant contact. Our locations are on at all times. We know exactly where we are, and inside of that chat, one of my team members, who's going to remain completely anonymous, he or she messaged me and was like, "Hey, somebody just threw a can of soup at the police." And then it was about 20 minutes after that that the gunfire happened, and we all kind of descended over to that area. But there was definitely communications. I'm not sure if the footage was caught, but because we have a lot of footage still to review. So we're looking through to see if there's any footage of that, but it was definitely witnessed at least by somebody on my team.
Yes, and then of course the graphic that was used to advertise the event has these flying cans of soup in a rainbow, and then multiple tweets online like this one that you highlighted. Eat your soup, it says, with bullets and cans of soup and whatnot. But that's just peaceful.
Yeah,
Peaceful sentiments, right?
it's very clever satire. My contact over at law enforcement that was preparing for these events didn't even know the symbiotic relationship between the soup and Donald Trump's previous statements.
Oh, he didn't connect the
Um,
dots.
and I definitely had to kind of let him know and understand because they kind of thought it was just a front to collect cans to be there, just a front to be present. But once they realized that it was a literal call to action on law enforcement and on individuals whose positions and viewpoints that they don't agree with, that took a different tenor and I think in the preparations. I'm not really sure, but they're weaponizing uh like everyday household items, food, skateboards, whatever. And you can't get on a public transportation. You can't walk into a grocery store with a bazooka, but you can certainly walk in with a can of food or a skateboard, and you're not going to be questioned about it. So they've taken a very intelligent manner in how they create weapons.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. That's so important because, yeah, they can tote around Campbell's soup cans, umbrellas, skateboards on the one hand, And then at the other extreme, like I said, there was one of the Redneck Revolt leaders who was profiled in the Colorado Springs Independent, Sherry Lynn Smith. She was the one that was toting around her AR-15, menacing motorists in the Pulpit Rock neighborhood of a police officer who had been targeted there. She's been arrested. I don't know if you've spotted her around. She was at Back the Blue. That's the one who was behind me, who took out the collapsible baton. And I don't know if she was there on Saturday. I didn't see her.
If you can send me a picture or something on, later. Because honestly, there's so many of these faces. I'm trying to once I get them identified, like Edward here who organized it. Once I get them identified, I try to start a thread.
Yeah.
And I'll get more information.
That's great.
Yeah,
I hope you're backing everything up. Yeah. I hope you've got a Parler account or a Telegram or some way of archiving all this stuff, because it's so important.
Yep. So I do have a Parler. I don't use it very much, but definitely going to start transferring a lot of information over there. We also have everything backed up on hard copy as well. That's the first thing we do is back everything up. Before we even look at the content, we want to make sure that we have a secure copy, and then we bring the backup copy over to our attorney's office just for future case anything happens to us.
Yeah, well, thank God for your attorney. There are so few good ones out there, and there are so few good, honest, investigative journalism practitioners like yourself with the kind of courage that I've just been able to absorb for the last hour. So Joey Camp, it was such a pleasure to talk with you. Please be safe out there. And any last words? I just want to make sure that everyone follows you at Joey Camp 2020. I'll give you the last word.
Absolutely. So whether or not you follow me, I'm not doing this for clout. I'm not doing this because I'm getting paid. I literally am disgusted by the treatment that has been demonstrated by public officials and elected officials, all the way down to these manipulated Antifa types on the street. And any encouragement is great. Attaboys are great, but I'm doing this because I feel like it's the right thing to do. And if I can identify somebody and that somebody happens to, like the one of the individuals who was hit with the skateboard, he messaged me after I sent him that information and he said, "Thank you, I have closure." He's not pursuing charges. He's been looking for the last several months just to try to find out who this guy is. If that's all that comes of my investigative journalism, that warms my heart, and I'll keep doing what I do. And so, whether or not you follow me, I'm just happy to get the information out there. I like that you follow me, because if I go quiet, you're probably dead.
Well, I'll be praying for you. And it's very rare that you get a chance to tell someone, hey, I appreciate what you're doing. Very grateful. Sunlight is the best disinfectant, and you are shining a lot of it. So take care, Joey, and keep up the great work.
Thank you so much. You too.
All right. Bye-bye.